Welcome to our presentation. We are the Lipscomb University IEEE ethics team for the SoutheastCon 2021 ethics competition. I am Ricky Cadena, and joining me will be Nathaniel Bogus and Johnny Hughes. And our topic for today is academic invasion of privacy, honor lock. So here's the argument that we will outline today in our presentation. The first thing is that students' privacy should be respected. Students should not have to divulge their personal data to a very high degree in order to take an exam using some sort of proctoring software. So specifically today we will be using HonorLock as our example of a proctoring software that gets too deep into personal data in order to proctor the exam. Our third point is that HonorLock and similar softwares have overstepped their boundaries in respect to user privacy. They require way too much data from users, they take too much information, more than they need to in order to properly proctor an exam. And our fourth step is therefore, HonorLock is in the moral wrong. It's not doing what it should correctly, it's in the moral wrong area. And I will now pass this off to Johnny Hughes.
How you doing? I'm Johnny, and I'm here to talk a little bit about some of the context. Something that I feel like is pretty self-apparent is the fact that we're in the middle of a global pandemic. So this might be something you're pretty familiar with. Zoom, a lot of meetings, classroom settings, and a lot of just general purpose use has been used for meetings with other people online. But we're specifically here talking about HonorLock and some other similar types of software which are used for proctoring tests. Another example we found is the Respondus Lockdown browser, but there are a few more options, but we're primarily focusing on HonorLock, which again is a software used in a school setting for students to take a test and be able to be proctored by their professor and have a little bit, it allows the professor to have more control over what the students are doing and prevent them from cheating. At least that's the intention. But if we look inside the user agreement here, we see a little bit of shady stuff going on. I'm going to read a little bit of an excerpt here, which says that the secondary device detection functionality is twofold. First, the app detects internet searches for exam questions and traces the searches back to the secondary device used to conduct the search. This is a little bit vague, and we'll get to that in a second. But secondly, it replaces the search results on the applicable secondary device with dummy websites owned and operated by HonorLock. So what this basically means is that they're trying to prevent you from using your phone or a secondary computer or use someone else to look up information for you and be able to help you cheat on the exam. But what this actually ends up doing is allows them to be searching the entire network, looking for other devices which are connected to the internet and searching for things. And it actually says later on in the user agreement that they are monitoring all search results from these secondary devices as well as recording them, which is very dangerous to be recording all of the search history from any device on your network, and we don't think it should be able to do that. So that's one of the main ethical concerns. So let's explain what the main ethical concerns are. Primarily is privacy, is that it monitors not only your own device, but all the devices on your network, which again, just monitoring your own devices, they capture a lot of data which they probably shouldn't be, but capturing that data for devices which are not using the software but just on the same network is a terrible, terrible idea which they should not be doing. And secondly, we have the non-disclosure of relevant details. What this means is that they are not sharing upfront with the users that this is occurring and that they're collecting this data and that they're collecting data from computers, phones, which are not even using the software. And that's something they should be not doing, but if they are going to keep doing it, they need to make sure that users know that, and it's very clear. And we refer to the IEEE ethics code here to show why we think that should happen. In section 1, subsection 1, it says to hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public, as well as to protect the privacy of others. We feel like that really speaks to the first point, saying that privacy is a key concern for the IEEE, as well as in subsection 2, it says to improve the understanding by individuals in society of the capabilities and societal implications of conventional and emerging technologies. So we at IEEE really want people to know what kind of ethical concerns are occurring and what kind of things are happening with their data, and we should not be hiding that information from our users. So I'm going to allow Nathaniel to take over now.
Okay, so as Johnny already pointed out, there are plenty of ethical concerns here, and even if we were to disregard those, though, there are a number of practical issues that we found with the usage of this software as well. Firstly, the limited benefit. So if one wanted to cheat on an exam using this sort of software, it wouldn't be too terribly difficult. I didn't try it with HonorLock. I Google searched for HonorLock and for the Reductus software as well. And I just, after one quick search, found a couple articles with 5 or 6 different examples of workarounds. So if you're the type of person who really wanted to cheat, it wouldn't be too difficult to do so. So the benefit seems to be extremely limited. Secondly, there's the issue of resource availability. So in this instance, that would be things like a stable internet connection and a web camera. I know that after the pandemic broke out and a number of us had to leave the main campus to do fully remote for a while, that meant going straight home and basically using whatever you had as a web camera and whatever your internet connection is. I had a few friends who didn't have a very stable internet connection, and that makes it difficult to take these sorts of tests, because if your web camera is not working or they can't monitor you properly, then in many instances your test is simply locked for a while. Third, it may compromise unrelated parties. Johnny already brought this up, that anyone who's accessing the network while you're taking one of these tests is vulnerable. In the instance of me being at my family home, my dad likes to do banking on the computer sometimes. If I happen to be taking a test when he's banking, that information is vulnerable. We only take HonorLock at their word to not do anything with that. They do claim that they don't hold on to information for a long period of time, but there's not any specification for what that is exactly, so that's more than a bit concerning. And lastly, there are a number of bugs with these sorts of things which can compromise users. When I say compromise, I mean they might not be able to take their test properly, or their information could be lost, either of which would not be something we would want. Okay, and so having addressed the ethical and the practical concerns, we created a list of possible options to deal with this problem. A few of them are more practical than others. The first two here, not so much, but there are options. So firstly, closing school. We could simply close schools until we don't need those online proctoring. We can, have tests in person again. Again, though, not very practical, because schools, while they're, institutions for learning, are businesses as well. You can't just shut down for a really long time. Secondly, the option of isolating a campus. This is more practical some places than others, but I would probably say in most places it's not, simply because there's usually a good mix of commuter and on-campus students, and so isolating can't really be done effectively. The more practical options we came up with are starting with alternative testing formats. Before the pandemic happened, a number of professors already gave out things like take-home tests under the assumption that students wouldn't cheat, or that students would be taking the test with their textbook, and so the difficulty was adjusted accordingly. Those could have been employed, or those can be employed. And also the idea of time-locked tests. A number of the platforms which universities use, where students have to submit their work, have options to have a time submittal window. So a valid option for a test is give the students 1 hour, and even if they use Google search, if they don't know what they're doing, there's a good chance they can't finish it. So they have to know how to take the test beforehand. That kind of ensures that they're learning what they should properly. Another option is professor or TA proctoring. This would still require a software like Zoom. In effect, it would be achieving a similar thing to HonorLock, but it eliminates a third party that kind of deals with the data questionably. So Zoom, while it's had issues, is more reliable, and if nothing else, you're cutting out another third party, which I would say is a good thing. Lastly, we decided, if HonorLock wanted to make their software something more usable for students, they would definitely need to change some of the capabilities so that they're less invasive. I don't think you should be compromising people on the network who are quite possibly just unrelated to what you're doing in the name of ensuring that people don't cheat, because the workarounds, again, are not very complicated. For one thing, most people have cell phones. If you're just disconnected from your network and turned on data, you could look stuff up. So, you know, I think monitoring the network's not really preventing action there effectively. So finally, Ricky's gonna go ahead and summarize things for us here. I'll hand it off to him.
All right. So in conclusion, remote learning softwares create privacy issues for their students. They are kind of invasive, they can steal data that they shouldn't have, and we personally believe that they should focus more on less data and just not do that. You know, not do that, it's bad, I don't like it. Professors should seek alternate options to some of the current applications being used. Now this can be done in a couple different ways, like either designing tests to be take-home or to be done in a time-limited format, or by doing some sort of proctoring with TAs and viewing the class through like a Zoom call. So there's some other options and better ways of doing it rather than using a third-party software. And lastly, HonorLock should require less permissions from their users if they want to be a viable software for the future. So these are our amazing sources, and we just want to say thank you for watching this video. Make sure to hit that like and that subscribe button, and we hope to see you guys tomorrow in the QA.